Football Manager is an incredibly overwhelming game, and even though FM26 has had a lot of features stripped back, it's still a lot to take in. A lot of more capable content creators than I, though, have taken you through their first day in management to try and introduce you to the game, but I think that there's still something lacking in a slower playthrough. So here we are, FM Immortal's proper beginner's guide to FM26. I'm going to start off with the very basics though. A lot of you will know it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Football Manager, hereafter referred to as FM, is a simulation game where you take control of a club. You are basically in control of anything except for hiring and firing yourself, and that sits with the board. But we'll take you through everything we know about how to avoid getting the sack in our induction to this game. We also think it's worth calling out though that the objective is essentially bring success to your club. You do this by optimizing two things. One, your staff, including your playing squad, future prospects and backroom support. And two, your tactical approach, for which you're going to need a plan A that works well with the squad that you've currently got, and a plan B for when things aren't going to script. Now, I'll also say this up front, after 2 and a bit seasons of playing through FM26, the magic is still there. For all its faults and warranted ratings, it's still a playable and enjoyable game, if not a little frustrating at times. And I've already got a video out on the channel that talks about whether or not we think you should buy this game now, later, or never. But I suspect that if you're watching this video, you've already crossed that bridge. The last thing I'll say before we get stuck in though is that thankfully a lot of this game's overwhelmingness can be overlooked. You'll be bombarded with information in this game, be that through emails, recommendations from staff or questions from the press. However, a lot of that can be ignored, I'm very happy to tell you, and I'm about to introduce only the important stuff that you really need to focus on to get going. So once the game is started, hit Start New Career and then go to Advanced Setup Career. Depending on where you're going to want to play throughout the game, you can add other leagues to this screen. This is the first thing you see in Advanced Setup, and I've added the 5 major leagues of Europe here, which tend to be the areas that I like to play around. These are all playable. Playable means I can actually move there as a manager. If I want them to be in the game but not actually playable, I can change these to view only. What you will see if you do that to enough of these leagues is that the estimated game speed, depending on your PC's performance, will move up. But I'm going to have them all as playable to start off with. We'd actually recommend keeping all other options on this advanced setup as is, so just add those leagues in, and then one slight change down the bottom of the screen, you'll have the option to add extra players into the game. So if your PC will allow it, if you're not playing on a potato, I would recommend going to a large database because there's just more players to pick from. Your next job then is to pick a team that you want to manage. If you have no idea who to manage, then I recommend going with your favourite club to start off with, just to find your feet with the game, because you're going to know that club and its players quite well. For me though, I'm going down to EFL League 1 and I am going to pick Reading, who are in turmoil in terms of the financial situation, but they do have great youth facilities. And do take note, if you are picking a random club, you can always just verify that decision by hitting the view squad button up here, sort by position, to have a look at what kind of inheritance you are due in terms of players. So I'm going to go next to the manager profile screen, and this is where it gets quite interesting. So this is my main manager, but we're going to create a new manager profile just for the sake of things. I'm going to click this guy because I really don't care about the aesthetics, but you can spend a lot more time if you like going into body, head and attire, changing that face, changing your suit getup as well, but I'm not going to bother with that one. I'm just going to call this guy Testicle. Place of birth, it doesn't really matter other than the questions that you'll be asked, but if you are going to play in mainly, I don't know, England, Germany, Spain or Italy, it might be a good idea. In terms of your football playing career, you can pick whatever you want here. I usually go with something like a top tier contender, rather than the generational superstar. I don't know if that will have any merit on what you do in the game. I suspect not, based on what I've experienced so far. I'm going to say that I have reached the kind of assistant manager level beforehand. I always like to not go quite to the top. For your first save, I wouldn't worry about this one too much. If you're up for an absolute challenge, you can start with absolutely 0 qualifications. What this will do is mean that throughout the game you are looking to get your coaching badges at the same time that you're aspiring through the leagues and clubs that you will be managing. You may also struggle then to have authority in places. I would just say for your very first save, click that top one, say that you've got all your badges, all your qualifications, and that you are good to go. When it comes to your coaching style, I will let you figure out which attributes and mental attributes go up and down with combinations here, but you can have 1 or 2 specific areas which is suggested. You can actually go as far as 3, I think, but 1 or 2 for me is the way to go. All of these things will have an impact on how you are received by both your players, your staff, but also I guess within the actual game itself, what you're able to do with development and interactions. My suggestion is to go with developer energetic. It has no drag on mental, but it also gives you good on fitness, attacking and working with youngsters, which is very important if you're going to kind of nurture any talent from a youth prospect potential. And then you've got goalkeeping as one of the ones that goes to competent, technical possession and set pieces as well, but your tactics remain average, which is quite strong. I think if I were to change that just to specialist as well, you start to see a drag on mental attributes, so I try to avoid that, and I've gone with energetic and developer as my only 2 here. Next you go into your personality, and I actually think that the best one to click here is inspirational. You can have driven as well. It doesn't change much from a coaching attribute perspective, but it does mean that your adaptability goes down and your authority goes up. I would say that inspirational only is the best one to check here. So there we have my manager profile to start off with. Then these will develop in time, I believe, and my reputation will certainly grow as I get older and as I have more success. But my mental attributes here are in a really good place. I've got competencies in all the things that I think are important, but average for tactical, technical, attacking and defending, which are your bog standard ones really. And I'm good to go with my manager. Just to have a look at how that compares to a manager with 2 years experience then. So my fitness has gone to good, my tactical has gone to good, my working with youngsters has become very good, and I've actually developed the develops young players tendency as well, and that's just happened through experience. So these things will change as your reputation grows and as you start to receive more success in your career. But let's go with testicle to get the game going. At FM Immortal we strive for original content, from tips, tricks and what ifs in Football Manager to just goofy in-game editor experiments, stacked with memes and copious swearing. We've got over 100 videos in the back catalogue, and we never place ads on the latest 2 videos on our channel, so hit that subscribe button if you want to see the freshest FM takes ad-free. Now this is where it gets incredibly intimidating. There's a lot of information thrown at you from a very, very early place in this game. I've already got 12 unread emails. Some are red, some are green, some have little exclamation marks next to them. I can see that I've got 4 tasks if I look down here at my calendar, but if I'm completely honest with you, I train my eye on 2 places on this page only, unless I'm really interested in whether or not I've just changed position in the league or what my next fixture is. I'm looking only at this whole bar here down the left, which is my inbox, my messages inbox. And then across the top here, I've got my bookmarks. Now this used to be a sidebar in Football Manager predecessors. Now it's a case of you have a set of bookmarks that you can click the little icons or tiles for, and that will take you to the page instead. The first thing that I would recommend you do is mimic my bookmark selection. So my selection is the ones down the left here with the full kind of filled star. My non-selected then are the ones with the hollow star down the right. If you want to move one from A to B, you just click it and set pieces will move over. I do recommend having set pieces set up here though, as well as finances, which I don't think is there as default when you load the game for the first time. The first one I'm going to go to, because I've seen a very scary email in my inbox already, is finances. Now I am actually compliant with FFP. I was expecting to see the opposite, given that there is an email over here that says a transfer embargo has been placed on the club. So let's have a look at this. A global transfer ban has been placed upon the club until Saturday the 1st of February 2025. When you get used to this game and you know when you have to take actions, this button is going to become your best friend, because it gets rid of all of the clutter and you don't have to click through, as we're about to, every single email in your inbox every single day. So that button, as I say, is an absolute dream. But we're going to go through each one. So welcome to Reading as our first email, which is lovely. We do have a scouting budget of 137k, which is quite surprising. Might look to shift that around, because there's absolutely no need for a scouting budget when you can't spend a penny. But we have a little bit of a synopsis here about Reading Football Club. A supporter profile doesn't really change anything. Club vision and expectations. So expectation is, yep, as we've mentioned, reach the EFL League One playoffs. Bloody hell. That's going to be quite difficult. I will accept, but only because I like a challenge. Now for the big one then. It's the tactics introduction. So the 5th email in your inbox, working upwards from the bottom, is going to be your first delving into the tactics screen, which, if you can believe it, is even more intimidating than what we had already. What you have in FM26, which is slightly different again from FM24, is this kind of sidebar style for interactions. So sometimes there'll be a dialog box here that you can click to continue the dialogue, and there'll be options. But in this instance, what we're asked to do is click this green area here, where it's going to take us to this option of a tactical style. Now, there are several available to me that have a little thumbs up icon next to them, and these usually spell the ones that your assistant manager thinks you've got the players to fit already. Personally prefer tiki-taka and kind of controlling possession. We're going to go with a 4-2-3-1 DM wide to start things off. Out of possession then, we're probably going to go with, even though it's not recommending it, this middle option, just because it just means there's less moving around of our players. So if you look at what the in possession to out of possession movement is here, that central attacking midfielder staying in basically the same place is why I'm going for this middle option. Once you've chosen your in possession and out of possession tactic, then you're met with this screen, another intimidating one, and the reason why we're taking things a little bit slower. So the tactics planner screen, which can be either taken to by this button here, which says tactics, or if you are on the match day screen, you'll also have a tactics bar at the very top here. Either of those buttons will take you to this view. And even within this view, there are multiple versions thereof. So you've got the in possession, the out of possession, and then the both view, which consolidates kind of the space occupied by your selection pane here. But I prefer combined because you've got a little bit more room to grow this area. Now, one thing I do recommend doing to this is to insert a few columns that won't be in your default view. So if you go across this title bar here with all the column titles, you can right click and insert column. And the first one I'm going to put in, and this is going to go right hand side of the positions column, is going to be what's called ability here, but you will find it in insert column, abilities and role, and there should be one here that says assistant manager's opinion of this player's current ability. Once you pop that in, then you're going to have a star rating against every single player in your squad. It's going to really aid me in understanding who should be part of this team. However, there is a quick way around all of this as well. So rather than dragging any one of these players up, like the goalkeeper into the goalkeeper position, for instance, I'm actually going to click this button up here called Quick Pick, and it's a very easy way of getting your assistant manager's version of the best 11 you can field and the best substitutes thereafter. So once I've clicked that, everyone that should be in my first team, according to my staff, is selected. So this quick pick button then is a really good way of setting up your stall and seeing that you have got enough players to fill the formation and the tactic that you have selected. It is worth probably seeing that in out of possession mode and in possession mode in terms of where people are going to be, and in terms of then this familiarity column, which might tell you where you have to tweak a few roles to suit who you've got in your team. I can see, for instance, that Lewis Wing is this. Yeah, he is a box-to-box midfielder by trade. We've got him on the pitch as a central attacking midfielder, probably because we haven't got a better player to play there. Hence his familiarity is right the way in the toilet, and why we are going to probably look at moving that around. So let's have a look at a couple of other players to see if we can do better than what has been set up. So we've got Charlie Savage, son of the sod, but not looking like he's going to take the position too well. We've got Burns as well, who looks like he prefers to play as a centre back. So immediately I'm thinking, let's get Burns off the pitch, Wing into a better position. They've got a good relationship, which is a good sign. And then we'll look for somebody else that can come in that central attacking midfield slot. I mean, Kamari Doyle is not a bad option. I will pop him there for now. He's going to probably be better placed in that position. But it doesn't look like that's improved all that much. From Lewis Wing to Kamari Doyle, there's really not that much gain in familiarity. So the problem might not be the position, the problem might be the role. So that's an in-possession role that I'm looking at now. FR, I think, stands for free role, which means it's pretty much do whatever you want. I'm going to change that straight up to an attacking midfielder. I will put more detail behind the instructions at a later date, but to start off with and to get that familiarity slightly higher, we'll start him there, and then in the outer possession, I think we've got a job to do, and I would be very careful of this. If you change if you drag somebody onto the pitch, or change people around in the pitch when you're in possession or out of possession, it might not do them both at the same time. So having done that, I think that's climbed again ever so slightly for Kamari Doyle, which is nice, but it does talk to the fact that it's not going to be our strongest position on the pitch. We've got a similar challenge, I think, with Charlie Savage, who prefers to be that box-to-box midfielder. We've got him down as a box-to-box playmaker, so let's just change that up as well and just suit the needs of the squad that we've got. Now we're going to make one more change here, and that's going to be to a briefer, who we are going to make a wing back as opposed to an inside fullback, just because we recognise the wing back role a little stronger, and we think that familiarity jump is going to do us wonders in defence as well. Now I won't go in depth on role descriptions on this video. I won't also go into too much detail with individual instructions. However, the big ones I will tell you come to the wing backs, and I would say that at any point in time you want the wing backs to make sure that they are crossing to the target forward and that they are shooting less often. So every single tactic in Football Manager that I employ is going to use these two instructions on any wing back position, or even if it's an inverted wing back, a full back position, it doesn't matter. Those side backs in defence are going to have the ball at some point in attack, and they are usually absolutely awful at making decisions around shooting in this game. So do try to make them shoot less often, and also target the forward that's in the box and not anybody else. So we've done a little bit of tweaking to our tactic to fit the players that have gone into the starting 11. There's still some work to do there, and if I'm brutally honest, this Kamari Doyle familiarity is still lackluster in my opinion, which if I scroll down and then have a look through and can't see any other central attacking midfielders, maybe Tuma. No, he's not very good at playing in that position, but he is quite good at playing on either flank. So Tuma is not going to be our any deputy to Doyle in the middle there. So that's already giving me a target, if I'm honest, for recruitment. I know I've got my purse strings tightened and it's going to be very difficult to bring anyone in, but I'm already thinking about where I can buy somebody in that's better than Doyle. So we have quick picked, we have tweaked our roles, we have given a couple of instructions to our wing backs. We've got our first team here by the looks of things. However, this quick pick button does not work every single time. Mark Mahoney, who has been put into our centre forward role, is only actually a 2.5 star role ability and 2.5 star ability. If I scroll down and look through my substitutes, I can see the wonderful Jack Marriott is down there. If I pop Jack Marriott into this position, I can see that yes, his role ability is 2.5 star, but tactically he's better. He's got a better overall ability according to our assistant manager. Who should I be picking to go into that role? Well, first of all, we did notice that there is that little familiarity gain with Mark Mahoney, which probably meant that he was picked atop of Marriott by our assistant manager when we did our quick pick. So we probably will stick with Mahoney for that familiarity gain. However, there is one other major thing we need to compare, and that is a player's attributes. So you've seen me jumping to and from a few of these player profiles already, and I've largely been training my eyes on this section here, which is the roles that they can or cannot play. There is an out of possession and an in possession version of this as well, and the highlighted attributes across here actually tell you the ones that are most important to that role, according to Football Manager, that is, not necessarily the full version of the truth, if I'm honest. However, the big thing that you can do on this page, if you're stuck between which of the two options are best, is to look through and select your other player. So you can go to the comparison button on the top right of the profile. You can then, where you've got this octagon which tells you kind of the overall ability of the player, I can now see much clearly that Mark Mahoney outweights Jack Marriott in basically everything besides passing, and therefore probably is the preferential player. However, I can go into detail on that one if I want to, and I can click on attributes, where I can then see that Marriott's got the edge for dribbling and finishing, two massive parts of leading the line, if I'm honest. He's got better long shots, which might be interesting, but he's much worse at heading. So if I'm playing the ball in the air, then Mahoney is my man, but if I'm trying to kind of score from outside of the box, Marriott's got the edge. Marking doesn't matter to a centre forward whatsoever. And then you've got your mental attributes here, where you've got a lot more aggression and a lot more composure from Jack Marriott, two really big parts. But the concentration jump is huge. 7 to 12 means that Mahoney's going to have his head in the game a lot more than Marriott, so Marriott might therefore not be as reactive or not make the right calls as to where to be on the pitch. So Mahoney edges it on attributes as well. However, there's one more thing to consider. You'll notice that a few players in this roster have kind of got that light blue about their name. Now that means that they're actually currently on loan to this club. If they were on loan going out from the club, they may also appear in the roster, but they will be red. In this view then, in the profile, I'm going to click on contract, and depending again on when you're starting your career, you might have some players in your squad that are actually outgoing, either that they have a committed loan that's been arranged before you've joined and they're actually going to leave your squad and you can do basically sweet FA about it, or that they have an expiring loan, so they are actually at the tail end of the year. Thankfully, clicking on Loan Club and looking at the contract details, I can see that we've got Mark Mahoney for 328 more days, which means we've got him for that single season, that loan that's going to carry me through to the end of the 25-26 season. So he is still going to be my line leader. After all that attribute familiarity and then contract checking, we can confirm, Mark Mahoney, you're our man. Probably the last thing to look at on your tactics planner before you go elsewhere then is going to be your team instructions. So we've looked at individual instructions, only of our wing backs admittedly, but we didn't want to kind of completely overburden things. There will be other tweaks that we make to every other position probably, if I'm honest, but those two that we put onto each of the wing backs are the most vital, trust me. Now if you click on the team instructions tab, away from the team shape tab, you're met with this image in possession and out of possession lineup. Now, what I would recommend doing is, if you're unfamiliar with the way that your team will set up their stall when a ball is at any area of the pitch, it's to look at the fact that you can highlight each area of the pitch and click into one of 9 squares. Clicking into these will actually show you for in possession where you expect your team to be, which is really interesting. You can see that Charlie Savage, as a box-to-box midfielder, for instance, when that ball is moving forward and in the final kind of third of the pitch from our team's perspective, he's going to be really close to the edge of that box. Our attacking midfielder then is also going to be quite tight to him, and this is going to be our relationship between our right wing forward and our wing back. So what I would be doing here is just getting yourself familiar with these icons and tiles, as they're the things that in game you're going to want to tweak if things aren't going so well. I can see, for instance, that I'm discouraging currently any dribbling. Is that a good idea, or do I have some good dribblers on my team? I've got Kaiowera, who doesn't look too bad. He's actually out on the right, but looks like he could be a better player than Doyle in the middle. And I've got Savage, who isn't a good dribbler either. Mahoney, not the best at dribbling. So maybe that dribbling instruction of not dribbling too often is warranted, and we'll keep it. Ultimately though, we recommend getting super familiar with this table of instructions. So in your team instructions, just figure out the range of each of these individual tiles, as these are going to be your in-game controls and essentially how you go from plan A to maybe plan B. So unbelievably, I think that's everything from a tactics planner perspective. But there is one other thing that this does bear fruit to, and that is the fact that you do also need to consider your squad depth. So it's more than just your starting 11, of course, and it's more than just who gets onto your bench based on their ability. You actually need to figure out where you may have holes if there was to be an injury, or if you do just need a little bit more rotation to cope with fixture pile-up. So the next thing I'm going to do then, and I don't actually play as an advocate to this often, I'm going to go to the squad planner. Now, I don't particularly like this squad planner. I'm much more of a pen and paper guy, but if you're just clicking through each one of your areas, you will be able to see who is a kind of a good fit, a medium fit, or somebody that's completely estranged from all roles altogether, based on their positioning in the list here on the right. So I'm looking at the strikers. I can see Mahoney and Marriott. As I know, I didn't actually bring Kelvin, we'll just call him Kelvin, into the fray, because I just didn't recognise that these two are probably going to be my starting headache. What I do like about this option though is you can click on depth and just see the numbers that play up in each of these areas. So the fact that I've got 7 attacking midfielders is confusing, but that's going to be including that right winger that we just mentioned, could be better. Lewis Wing as well, who the assistant manager pushed there initially, and I don't think anyone better than Kamari Doyle to start off with. So this is also to be taken with a pinch of salt, but this is probably the most alarming thing out there, in that there's only 3 players currently that can fit this bill, and one of them looks like he may be long-term injured, so 2 to 4 months. Andy Yodam is not going to be there, and that's probably a bit of an issue. But once we've done that assessment, we know our players, we know our squad, we know our tactics, we're going back to our message board, where we're going to see a bit on responsibilities. Now, there is a right order and a wrong order to learn Football Manager, and in my opinion, the responsibilities introduction is not something you should worry yourself with immediately. You should only really focus on that squad building and tactics setup to get yourself off the ground. So the quick way around this Reading Responses introduction email is to go to your club and go to staff, and from the staff area you should have a responsibilities tile down the bottom right. So if you click this, you're going to be met with this delegation screen. Cutting quite a long story short here, the only things you want to maintain control of are the hiring and firing of staff and players. So make sure you've got every bit of control when it comes to transfers and contracts for your playing squad, and make sure you're in control of finalising any staff hiring for the first team. Everything else I would delegate for the first instance. Naturally, you are going to want to have control over the match day, of course. Now, again, I'm going to hit the portal button to go back to that main screen, and then I've got the squad introduction. So the code of conduct will come through next after you click the continue button, and I'm just going to confirm that one. On day 2 then, I think you're going to be met with the dynamics introduction. This is where you're going to see how happy your squad is. It looks like from the team cohesion bar here, my squad is not very happy, but the dressing room are currently not aggrieved with me as a manager, which is good. Now, one thing I will say about dynamics is it's the quickest way to start losing games. So if you start rattling the cage, either by selling or by going against basically a hierarchical team or squad leader, so that might be somebody who is a captain, it might be someone that's been there for a long time or that is generally seen as a leader amongst the groups. If you do that, you're going to have a bad time. So training is another thing that I don't think is all that important to learn first. I think come back to this when you're 1 or 2 months in and think about whether or not you are getting a lot of injuries, for instance, and maybe you want to kind of dial back on the intensity of your training. But for the first instance, I'm not even going to do the introduction. I don't care. Set pieces, it probably is worth setting up though. So contrary to that training point, we probably want to click set pieces here, and this is what it's asking you to do. It's not all that clear. So you've got that blurb down the left from your assistant manager. You don't have to read that. Just click this box here where it says set pieces, click let's go, and then here is my recommendation for what I see generate the most goals in Football Manager based on set pieces I've seen. I'm going to go near post, I'm going to go out swinger, I'm going to go balanced, and then I'm going to go hybrid. So that's in terms of the positioning of your players in offensive and defensive modes. And then what do I want to do? My players marking whilst defending. I don't want any players on the posts. How many players do you want to leave forward? I want to be counter-attacking. So there are a few things that even in this tutorial I'm not going to get into too much detail of. I think it's up to you to figure out which prompts in press conferences yield the best results. From a motivational point of view and a not pissing the board off point of view, I'll leave you figure out which ones are which here, but largely press conferences have little to no impact on your game. They are just there really for the immersion factor. Other things like introducing yourself to the squad at the very start of the game, they're just a formality. You won't actually get much benefit out of them either. They have a little bit more weight behind them when you're seasons into your save and you actually have to motivate your players for the season ahead. And of course there is the overall number of emails that come through to you. I love this double tick button, which is mark all as read. Typically it will always prompt when you have an action to take to a message, so everything else to me is bump. And this is going to be the first match. So what am I doing when I get into a match day selection then on my tactics planner? Well, I'm first of all looking down at sharpness. Obviously this is the very first game and we're back from holidays, so there is no sharpness. There's no injury in my current starting 11 though, which is good. Doesn't look like there's any injuries in my 15 subs either. What we are going to do, and we always do this, is hit this next match button before we do anything else. So essentially what this is doing is allowing you to make any modifications for the initial game ahead of you without disrupting your overall tactic. If I was to make changes here to any personnel or any player instructions or even the formation, which I can do by just going to presets, I could just randomly swap to a 4-4-2 diamond narrow if I wanted to. That would take effect to every single thing that we do thereafter, including the training that happens when you're not playing matches. So I'm going to hit next match. I'm going to look down at my squad. I'm going to see that they're all kind of happy enough, and I don't think I need to make any changes based on that quick pick that we did earlier. And yeah, we're probably just going to go in as this, to be honest with you. Now, whilst that first friendly plays out in the background then, we thought we'd just take you through 4 more tips for new players, and the first of which is a golden rule that we've already kind of alluded to with our tactical setup, and that is to always build your first tactic around the players that you've got and not try to build a squad around the tactic that you want to adopt. If you don't do this, it will be detrimental to your results, and alongside the faux pas of the player dynamics that we mentioned earlier, it's a surefire way to get sacked pretty quickly into your save. The second one then, and this is very important too, just because your team has conceded first or is having a little bit of a rough patch, it doesn't necessarily mean that your tactic is garbage. Trust the process and give your tactic a fair trial before you go back to the drawing board. And remember that the FM26 match engine is essentially just a million different magic 8 balls at work. There is a lot of luck involved, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way. The third one we want to teach is that there are a lot of ways to get additional fundage in FM, from requesting money from the board through to maximising the value of player sales. We're going to put out a dedicated video to maximising your finances in the future, so hit the subscribe button if you want to hear that one. But the big one we will show you today is where you can look at your previously agreed clauses in your transfers and sell things early to bring a little bit more fundage in that first summer that you join the club. And the most golden of golden rules in Football Manager is that momentum is everything. If you get yourself onto a hot streak and you've got 5 wins in a row, I wouldn't touch a thing. Keep playing the same players that are getting you results and ignore those whiners that say they want more game time. Essentially, you're looking to extend your purple patch as long as you can by keeping the same players fit and happy and scoring, and this for me has yielded the best results in every one of my 5,000 plus hours playing various Football Manager games. And there we go, we've completed Football Manager. We've just beaten Champions League team Union Saint-Gilloise 3-2 in our very first game, and we can probably retire happy after that. In all seriousness though, Kamari Doyle had a stormer in that attacking midfield role, and he's definitely going to be somebody to keep an eye on. He is still very young, so 19, and he's got that in him to score 2 goals in a game like he just did, which we love to see, but we absolutely still have to go after someone else who can play in that middle pin of the 4-2-3-1. The last thing we're going to go through in the introduction of this game, it's recruitment. Let's see what our assistant manager has to say about it. So we've apparently got 3 recruitment focuses underway. So as I come about my 3 recruitment focuses, then I can see that I've got 1 standard in the League 1 scouting pool, 1 in the Championship scouting pool with a few names against each, and then 1 which is specific to a role, and it's that defensive right hand side where we recognised earlier when we were assessing our squad depth we had a bit of a gap, given there was only 3 players I think that could play there, and one of them was crocked for 4 months. So I've been suggested Joe Rafferty by my one of my scouts, so I'm going to click on him and have a look at what I'm dealing with. My eyes immediately train actually to this section here. I don't know if that's everyone's opinion, but I'm always interested in when the contract is expiring in case he's about to become a free agent, and then also this kind of asking price range. So 55k to 550k is quite a wide margin. It's not a lot of money for the bigger clubs, but for when you've got a budget of 0, it's a bit of an ask. And then the contract there, so a 3.6 to 4.2k per week contract is within our grasp by all means, but our scouting report is actually already saying this is a B-, and I'd give it probably a D as a recommendation. He hasn't really got the attributes I'd be looking for. I'm drawn to physicals more than I'm drawn to anything else when I'm lower down the leagues in England, so I'm going to hit this button at the top left to go back to the recruitment page then, and I'm going to right click on him, and actually to make sure that I get no more distraction from my scouts, I'm going to say add to not interested list indefinitely. Then as we've been talking about, we want 1 more recruitment focus to be added onto this list, so I'm going to click create recruitment focus. I'm going to uncheck the any position box and say attacking midfield centre, and then I'm going to say in position I want him to be an attacking midfielder, and then I'm going to hit next. And then this is where you get the kind of classic recruitment focuses. So if you're familiar with FM, you'll have seen this before. I'm just going to call this at mid. I'm going to say a 2.5 star minimum, because that's where Kamari Doyle is currently at. 3.5 star minimum potential. And I'm going to make sure that we're getting people that are kind of under the age of 26. I'm not too fussy about going too young here. I would often have a wonderkids one here, which kind of looks at under 20-year-olds, but I for the first instance in that very first season I'm pretty interested in getting someone in that's going to support me when Kamari Doyle is not available, and therefore this is going to be my top focus as well. So that's all I'm really setting out. Any scout is fine, any analyst is fine, and I'm hitting confirm. That completes the recruitment induction then. So we've just done a recruitment focus, but let me tell you how I normally go about my business in FM. It's not by recruitment focuses, although that does drip feed through the occasional gem that would go unspotted. But I'm going to go to recruitment tab here. And from this tab, again, a barrage of information, so many tiles to click on, so little time. But actually, you're looking at player recommendations if you want to see a list of everyone that's kind of come through from your scouts to date. You can sort these on, I like to sort them on position, if I'm honest with you, because I can then train my eye straight to the fact that we've got an advanced playmaker in there in Jonathan Russell, who looks like he's not too bad, but he's probably a little bit further behind. Especially on the pace again and agility that we'd want, so not going to be going after him. So that's one thing to check every once in a while, and if you see and you find that there's absolutely no one that you want, again you can just clear all if you want to, or discard the reports. Instead, I'm going to go to player database, and this is, my friends, the best part of the game for me. You can see that within my scouting realms I've already got 2,641 players, and that is only those who are persuadable to join the club. So if you want to expand that list and really just look at absolutely everyone, and you're an optimist like me, you can go to not considered, and then you've got 10,057 players found. And this is essentially the results of every league around you your scouts are available to. I'm looking for that attacking midfielder, so I'm going to go to edit search, that purple button first, and then I'm firstly going to go attacking mid. Also probably take out anyone that's 30 or over. Immediately I'm already down to 861, and then I'm going to go into picking attributes. This won't be exact by any stretch because we haven't completely scouted anybody, but the main one, vision. So the thing that I want my player in that pin behind the striker, that number 10 role if you want, is going to be spotting the runs of the players around him, be that the wingers, the wing backs making an overlap, the centre forward of course that's in front of him, and then anyone that's approaching, like that box-to-box midfielder we've got in Charlie Savage. So vision is going to be very important to me, and I'm going to probably want to have a minimum of 14 for a good player there. And the next one is going to be passing. Now, one thing I could do at this point, just to see if there's any chance whatsoever of getting this player, is look for a contract status that is currently expired. And I will see that we've actually got two players apparently in there. One is Harley Hamilton, who is wanted by Barnet, and one is Andre Anderson from Brazil, who looks like he might have something about him, you know. I'll scout him for a week. And with Harley Hamilton, I'm probably not interested. I'm not seeing anything there that's glowing, and it probably looks unlikely that a League 2 target is going to be our best fit, or certainly an improvement on Kamari Doyle. So that is one of the giveaways actually. You can look at who a player is wanted by as an indicator of their potential. This is scouting without a scout, and there's one other way of doing this, and that is, I'll just remove that expired status so we go back to our 153 players. But that's actually to look at the wage. So obviously anyone on over, I would say 20k per week is going to be completely out of our stretch, but you do get a little bit of a sense of how good a player is based on their wage, and it's always accessible to you. Be this a 16-year-old that's just signed in a youth setup from a club that you've never scouted, if they've got a significantly different wage than everyone else, it's probably for a reason. It's probably because they've got a high ceiling of their potential ability. Now, I don't really have the transfer kitty to bring any of these players in anyway. As you know, I've got £0 to start with, but it's certainly worth putting a couple of these on the short list just in case they were then to expire their contract. My last tip though when it comes to recruitment, and I'll do this just agnostic of the position that I'm currently looking for Reading, is to wait until deadline day. I know it's a long time away. It'll be the 31st of August 2025, which is well over a month away yet. before you employ this set of filters. So you're going to first of all look for loan status listed, then you're going to go to add condition, club, division, and then that division being the Premier League. So if this is if you're playing in England, certainly if you're playing elsewhere in Spain, Portugal, whatever it might be, whatever the top division is, if you look for the top flight loan listed players on deadline day, and you find somebody like, I don't know, a James McAtee from Forest, or even any of the players from the likes of the Big Six, as they would be called, Tottenham, Chelsea, all of these players are likely to be open to an offer. So if I go to actions and make an offer and then loan offer, I can't see myself getting anything through right now. But on a deadline day, I'd probably be able to warrant this: a £0 monthly fee, 0 wage percentage, and as long as I've got kind of an important player status and I'm playing them wherever they want them to be played, then these guys, or the likes of the Big Six, are probably going to okay those terms, because they just want to get game time for their players. So it's a real top tip for you if you do want to get someone in for free, which is what I would have to do, I think, at Reading Football Club, because of my transfer kitty being so minuscule. It's to wait until that very last second when there are still players that teams want to ship out for playing time, and then make the cheeky £0 0% offer. And that'll just about do it then. We have set up our tactic, evaluated our squad depth, we've got accustomed to the important stuff like attribute comparison, recruitment methods and match day routines. Hopefully you found this slightly longer than usual guide helpful. If getting familiar with FM26 is your priority, then we have plenty more where that came from over on our channel. So until next time, my friends, adios.